Hi. If you're suffering with fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, autoimmune illness, or other chronic pain and illness, or even if you're a human being without a known illness like that and you're just trying to live according to your principles with integrity, there's a basic fact that you and we all need to face. It's really hard to be a human being, especially when we're struggling with challenges. And I want to talk a bit today about challenges and obstacles and heroes and scouts or spies. So let's just get into it. I'm going to talk mainly to people who have chronic illness because that's what this is about. But I think the principles here apply to any human being who's really trying to live with integrity and be sincere about their humanity and their purpose in the world. It's really hard, and nobody has all the answers for you. That's one of the fundamental truths. Each of us is on a journey. You're on a journey. It's a journey that's unique to you. Nobody else can walk it for you. It's a hard journey. What I've heard from hundreds, if not thousands, of people in similar situations is that it's not just about the pain, the fatigue, or the weakness. It's the whole picture of the effect those things have on your life. It's the loss of function, the ability to do things that are meaningful to you, the breakdown in relationships, the sense of isolation, the loss of your sense of self that happens when you can't be the person you used to be, or you're having trouble being the person that you want to be and you keep falling down. We all experience this. There is a road back to health, back to function, back to meaningful life. There is a road to integrity and integration, and it's your road. It might resemble the road of somebody else, but it's your unique journey. I'd call the journey the hero's journey, because your life and your circumstances are asking you to do something that most people don't have to do. Your challenges are unique to you. Whether you're coping with loss and suffering or finding knowledge and inspiration and strength to accomplish things that will help you heal, or whether you're trying to reframe or rebuild relationships or fighting to regain your strength or function, I've watched many people make the journey. They are heroes, and there's certain things they go through. I want to talk about the things they go through and see what we can learn about it. One of the many challenges that people experience along the way is how do they embody knowledge? How do you take new knowledge and make it real? How do you take something that comes from the outside that you read or you get inspiration in your meditation or your prayer, and you want to make it real in your life? It's not always easy to make your life better and take those steps forward and do it in a practical, real way. What am I talking about? It could be any change you're making when you're on the road to enhanced health, well-being, or integrity. It could be that you want to change your eating habits or other lifestyle habits. It could be that you became aware of a need to shift a relationship that's toxic or develop a relationship that's healing. Maybe you're trying to overcome your own toxic emotions or memories, or maybe something related to physical functioning in the face of physical pain or other illness. It could be a big thing, it could be a small thing. Regardless of the context and the magnitude of what you're addressing, you need to take insight and understanding and make it real. And that's the process I want to talk about. The hero's journey is made up of many challenges just like that. I'll give an example from my life, okay? I don't like speaking in public. And it recently became clear to me that I need to step up to the plate and start teaching and making videos and teaching online. And it's been really easy for 20 years to work one-on-one with patients, like one-to-one, straightforward. It's a whole other thing to do it on video, and I find it terrifying. This is really hard for me to do that. It put me in touch with so much insecurity, negative self-talk, resistance, all kinds of things that get me to do something else rather than what I'm doing right now. So how did I do that? It's about how we encounter resistance, because we all encounter resistance when we're growing. When you're going to a higher level, there's going to be resistance. That resistance even has a well-known name in popular culture. It's called meeting the threshold guardians. The term threshold guardians was popularized by a guy named Professor Joseph Campbell. He studied world culture and spirituality, and he identified these elements of the hero's journey. Threshold guardians refers to the opposition you're gonna face whether from within you or from outside of you, as you go from level to level to level in your journey of healing, in your journey of integrating, in your journey of becoming the best person you can be. Your internal obstacles could include fear of the unknown. You might be more comfortable with your old ways of thinking, speaking, and acting. You might resent the situation that you're in right now and be blaming yourself or others for your suffering or your inability to make progress. You might have other emotional, physical obstacles. Any of those things can derail your progress. They can prevent you from making steps forward and activating your life force, activating your healing capacities, and embodying your inspiration. It's not your fault. And sometimes forgiveness of yourself or other people is the first step, because it's not about blame, it's about responsibility. At some point, we all have an option to let go of the blame of ourselves and others and take on the responsibility and the opportunity of making positive changes. Okay, so I'm talking now in all of that about internal obstacles, and in some situations you might have external obstacles, and your threshold guardians might show up as people you're in relationship with who don't want you to change, or your external responsibilities or financial obstacles, or your job, or other different things that you need to struggle with and you need to figure out a way to work through if you want to embody the higher truth that you want to embody. The basic thrust is this: as you ascend to a higher level, whether it's in your consciousness, in your function, your personal evolution, you're going to encounter obstacles. It's just the way it is. The mystics and sages and medicine men of every culture of all human history have compiled these stories, and it's in our consciousness as a human being. The principles built into reality, we see it all over the place. One place, there's a field of mathematics called chaos theory. Chaos theory is an advanced way of understanding complexity in the world. Chaos theory expresses this principle of threshold guardians. What does chaos theory says? Chaos theory shows through mathematics that in many natural systems, as they go from one level of order to a higher level order, they go through a stage that's chaotic. That's why it's called chaos theory. And in that chaotic stage, the order seems to break down. A great example is the gait of a horse that goes from a walk to a canter to a gallop. As the horse goes faster and faster, increases its speed. A walk sounds like clop, 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 clop. And a canter goes digga-dut, 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 digga-dut. And a gallop is digga-da-gut, 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 digga-da-gut. I'm not sure if you could hear it, but each one of these levels is orderly and consistent. Duck, 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 duck. And then gutta-gut, digga-dut, 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 digga-dut. And then digga-da-gut, digga-dut, 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 digga-da-gut. Right? But when the horse transitions from one level to the other, if you listen to their feet, there's a chaotic stage where it's like, it's not orderly. It's like a chaotic thing that happens in between, from a trot to a canter, from a canter to a gallop. There's chaos in the middle. There's chaos and disorder as we go from one level of order to another level of order, and there's chaos and disorder as we go from one level in our lives to another level in our lives. It's mirrored in a sense of disorientation and challenge and possibly fear that our hero experiences as she meets the threshold guardians. Things get dark before the light. There is a descent before the ascent. It gets harder and it's confusing and disorienting. Some people fall down and run away. The hero pushes through the chaos of the threshold and gets to the next level. So how does the hero respond when he or she encounters the obstacles of the threshold guardians, when things were orderly and the vision comes in and the person says, yeah, that's what I want in my life. And then as they start to go there, they get this stuff that comes up and it makes it difficult. How do they overcome it? In the Torah, there's an incredible story that paints vividly this exact journey. I was inspired to share this video because I was learning this particular parsha in Shalach that we read this week. The Jewish people, who are also called the children of Israel, have left Egypt. They were in a place of constriction and bondage. They connected with their higher calling, which was God's voice, and they're calling out to God, and they were freed, and they came into the desert. The desert represents openness and nothingness, and it's a place where we can connect with higher vision because there's no distractions. And that was the story of Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel, traveling in the desert. God was taking care of them. They didn't have to do anything. But then they get close a few thousand years ago to the promised land, to the land of Israel. And when Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, are going into the land of Israel, it means a higher level of responsibility. It means taking that wonderful relationship of closeness with higher inspiration and potential and actually living it in an embodied, concrete way in the land, in a place where they are going to encounter physical external challenges. So something amazing happens, right? At this part of the story, Moses says, okay, let's send out some scouts to scout the land and see what it's like. See if we can get up there, see what route we need to take. So he picks the top people, like the top guys. They were warriors, princes, highly evolved individuals, and he sends them to go survey the land. So they go up there and things get really crazy because when they come back after 40 days, they have a negative report, right? And what they say is, yeah, it's a great land. It's full of goodness, but the inhabitants are huge and powerful and we got lots of enemies there. They brought back this alarming message to the people and said, look, we can't go up there. Those people are bigger than us and stronger than us. And this land, it eats its inhabitants. It was like a terrifying message. They said, look, giants live there. And here's what they said. It's a crazy statement. We were like grasshoppers in our eyes, so we were like grasshoppers in their eyes. It's a very powerful thing that needs to be unpacked. It's very strong. We were like grasshoppers in our eyes, so we were in their eyes. So what happens then? All the people, the Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, become afraid. A near rebellion results. People, they want to kill Moses. People say they'd rather be back in Egypt, in a place of slavery, of narrowness and constriction, rather than face the challenge. And guess what? God speaks to Moses and he says, okay, fine, you guys don't want to come into the land that I promised you? You're not invited anymore. And you're going to stay in the desert till you die, and the next generation is going to come in. But you know what? There's two of you, Yehoshua, or Joshua, and Caleb. They're going to come in. Those of you who have left Egypt, but are still living in a constricted consciousness that represents slavery and servitude and basically Egypt, Mitzrayim, those of you who are so stuck in that you can't see the potential, you're going to stay in the desert. But Joshua and Caleb, they listened to me, they trusted me, they saw that land is good and that they can do it, so they get to come in. What are you talking about? Yeah, that's right. When you go into a higher level, you get an invitation, you get a vision, and you can make a choice. The outcome depends on how connected you stay to that higher truth. If you want to hear the higher truth and go for it, even if things are scary, then you're more likely to make it. And if you want to see yourself like a grasshopper, you're going to act like a grasshopper and the door is going to shut in front of you and you're not going to make it. That was true of the leaders of the tribes. They were warriors and princes, men of great stature. How much more so about the rest of us? So what's the deal? How do I bring this into my life? Sometimes we get scared. It's totally normal. The changes we were inspired to make at one point suddenly seem overwhelming or frightening. We encounter feelings and thoughts, and we prefer being in the constricted place, and we see ourselves like tiny, like grasshoppers. We want to turn back into familiar, even if it's killing ourselves. So what do we do in that situation? We can learn from Joshua and Caleb, because they did something different, and they were able to get into the land. They didn't believe the negativity. They saw things differently, and they fought for the truth. So what was different about them? There's two more things we hear in the story. One is that the Torah says Caleb had a ruach acheret. He had a different spirit. When he went into the land with all of the other scouts, he went to Hebron, the burial place of Abraham and Yitzchak and Jacob. And he actually prostrated himself. He lay down on the graves, and he got some kind of spiritual direct connection with the holy ancestors and the vision and the promise they were given that they were going to come into the land and their children were going to come into the land. He renewed his connection to that spirit. He had a different spirit, so he didn't get confused by the external stuff. And Joshua, he had a different story. Before they even went on their journey, he got a particular blessing from Moses. Joshua was meant to be the leader of the people. In Moses', after Moses leaves, he's going to be the leader. So he got a particular blessing, and that strengthened him throughout the whole trip. So what can we learn from that? We can learn that there's an internal power to overcome the obstacles. It's about our spirit. It's not about the externals. It's about something we know inside of ourselves. We might get the transition from an elder or a teacher. We might get the transmission from our forefathers or our ancestors. I'd like to suggest we can also get that transmission from our own choice about connecting to spirit, about connecting to our internal strength, about connecting to the space that every one of us has inside of us. That's a place of clarity and strength and inspiration and potential. It's really like this. We have internal eyes and we have external eyes. Our internal eyes see that inspiration. Our external eyes are more focused on the externals. In the Torah, we have faculties of the soul. And we have certain faculties that are above nature and certain that are within nature. The faculties of our soul that are above nature, there's two of them. One is called Chokhmah, or wisdom. Another one's called Bina, or inspiration. Chokhmah is this ability to receive a flash of inspiration. Bina is understanding. It's the ability to take that flash and relate it to reality, to actually make it real in an intellectual clarity sort of way. So these are wisdom and understanding. These are intellectual, spiritual qualities. I don't mean intellectual like math or political science. We're talking about higher intellect. And in the Torah view, we've also got these faculties of soul that are very important, and they're, so to speak, within nature. They're called midot. They're the emotional embodied processes and relationships and understandings that we have with ourselves and the world. They're profoundly colored by our life experience. They're where our emotional memories are stored. That's where trauma is stored. They're modulated by our actions and our history. Part of our divine service in our understanding is to bring these emotional embodied qualities into alignment with our higher faculties of wisdom and understanding. And so it's very valuable and important to keep this in mind, that we got two different worlds we're working with. There's a, so to speak, higher world of above nature wisdom and understanding. And there's a so-called within this world emotive nature of midot, of emotional embodied qualities that live in our heart and our organs and our bones that represent us, our personalities, but not our higher self. Are you getting the picture that these two are separate things? And we need to relate to them separately. So the Torah doesn't use the language of threshold guardians. The later sages use the language of obstacles. And they talk about that when we know the right thing, when we try to start to do it, difficulties come up. The obstacles are there. And it's easy to think, oh yeah, that was just a dream. It's not really true. And that's why so often you may have had an inspiration to do something that seemed or felt like a great idea, and then as you get closer to doing it, you get these voices of doubt inside of you. You don't feel like it's the right thing. You're experiencing your own obstacles. It's your threshold guardians. So fortunately, there's a way to work wisely. It's vitally important, first of all, to remember to continually tap into that higher inspiration. For me, I do that through meditation and prayer. For some people, it's journaling, time in nature, studying inspirational writings, or some other combination of things. Regardless of the method you use, you got to find what works for you. You got to tap into that place inside of you, or beyond you, however you want to name it, and access the higher truth you're aiming for. You find your inner resources, and you access them so that you can bring them into the world. It's a higher truth, and to be guided by it and led by it, you need to practice accessing it so it's with you when you need it. You need to make a practice of it, because when you get to the so-called promised land, when it's time to make it real, when the rubber meets the road, you're going to have threshold guardians and obstacles, the places inside your own self or in your external world that resist change and growth. Your ability to overcome the threshold guardians depends on consistently renewing and refreshing your access to higher inspiration and higher knowing. Okay, so that's the first part. We need consistent access. We need a way to plug in. There's another aspect, and that's more of an earthy, emotional work that we all need to do to relate wisely to our emotional and physical attributes. Develop mindfulness of your emotions and body. Employ tools to transform toxic emotions. Learn how to use other tools to excite your emotional and physical parts to align with your higher vision. This is a way that you activate your emotional embodied self to grow. Whether you just want to be a better person or whether you're trying to take on what you need to take on to heal and to grow and to live a life that's thriving even though you're suffering, or to live a life that's thriving and that draws you out of your suffering by doing the things that you need to do to heal. These are all things you can learn to do on your own from a teacher or another kind of therapeutic relationship like therapy or whatever works for you. This is the process that every human being goes through as they mature and grow. If you have chronic pain or if you have or illness, you have an opportunity. You're in a kind of prison like the children of Israel in Egypt. You have a place of restriction that's calling you, your being, to grow and evolve. If you learn to access that higher inspiration, you're going to get out of Egypt and you're going to be in the desert, which is an open place where you can actually access that, where you learn how to access it. But that's not the end of the story. You got to learn how to bring it into your heart and bring it into your body and bring yourself into the land where you're actually living that higher truth. So those are 2 steps to the journey, and the whole point is to not get confused by that transition from inspiration to actualization. If you do this kind of stuff, you may heal. Your sense of fulfillment and quality of life and purpose may increase. You may even heal your illness or pain. It's not an easy or obvious process. It's hard work. But the bottom line is that the principles are laid out by those who came before you. It's up to you to find their truth in your own life. And it's a choice you can make every day or not. In the coming months, I'm going to be launching an online course that teaches more about the transformational process and some of the skills that can be helpful to empower you on your journey to connect with your higher knowing, to develop mindfulness and work with your emotional and body experience in a wise way, to transform toxic emotions and empower your higher vision. If you want more information, inspiration, and support on your journey, please join the Facebook group that's called What Heals, WHATHEALS. And if you want to get on the email list to get notified directly when the course is coming out, or to access the ongoing newsletter of inspiration and information that can be very helpful and is totally free, then go to my website and sign up for the newsletter in the upper right corner of the website. The address is www.drschiller.com. That's DRSHILLER. DRSHILLER. Can I say my own name again? Wow. I told you how little I like speaking on camera. DRSHILLER.com. So, last message here, don't ever give up. Find your truth, cultivate it, energize it, activate it. Let's make it happen. Thanks for listening and watching for so long. Have a great day.